Hi, everyone. I'm Noah.
And I'm Lila. It's nice to see you again here.
Can I tell you something a little embarrassing?
Of course. Whenever you start a sentence like that, I know it's going to be a good story.
Well, a few years ago, I had been studying English almost every single day. Grammar books, vocabulary lists, flashcards, YouTube videos, podcasts. I honestly thought I was working really hard.
That already sounds like every English learner I know.
Exactly. So one day, I met a tourist. He smiled at me, looked me right in the eyes, and asked, "Hi, how are you?" And my brain completely stopped working.
No way. Not, how are you? The easiest question ever.
I know. I wasn't giving a business presentation. I wasn't taking an English exam. It was literally, "How are you?" And somehow my brain was like, loading.
You had spent hundreds of hours studying and got defeated by 4 little words.
I know, right? Meanwhile, 5 minutes later, I remembered about 15 different ways I could have answered.
Ugh, that feeling is painful. You think of the perfect answer after the conversation is already over.
Yes. And if you're listening right now, I have a feeling you've experienced something similar. Maybe someone asked you a simple question, and suddenly, every English word you've ever learned decided to hide.
Or maybe you understand English videos, you understand podcasts, you even know the grammar. But when it's finally your turn to speak, your mouth and your brain stop cooperating.
It's like they're on strike.
Exactly. Your brain says, I know this. And your mouth says, actually, I forgot everything.
For a long time, I thought the problem was simple. I just need to study more. So, I studied more. More vocabulary, more grammar, more exercises. Guess what happened?
Did you become magically fluent overnight?
Not even close. Actually, I just became really good at studying English, not using it.
Wow, that's such an important difference, because those aren't the same thing.
Exactly. And I think that's where so many learners get stuck. They think they're bad at English, but often they're not practicing the language the way the brain actually learns it.
Yeah, most people imagine fluency happens during those big study sessions. You know, today I'm going to study English for 3 hours.
Then 3 days later, they're too busy, too tired, or just not motivated anymore.
Right? We've all been there. Life happens, work happens, school happens, laundry happens. Somehow, laundry always happens.
Seriously. But here's something that completely changed the way I think about learning English. Fluency usually isn't built during one huge study session. It's built during dozens of tiny moments that most people don't even notice.
Okay.
One page before bed, one short conversation with yourself, one podcast while you're making breakfast, one sentence written before you go to sleep. Tiny moments, repeated every day.
And the funny thing is, those little moments don't even feel like studying anymore. They just become part of your life.
Yep. So today, we're going to share 5 daily habits that completely change the way we practice English. Not because they're difficult, actually, because they're surprisingly simple.
These aren't secret hacks. They're not magic tricks. They're just small habits that quietly train your brain to stop treating English like a school subject and start treating it like a language you actually use.
So, if you've ever thought, why am I studying so much, but still don't feel fluent? I think this conversation might change the way you look at learning English.
Let's get comfortable, grab a cup of coffee, or maybe you're walking, cooking, or commuting right now. Wherever you are, we're really glad you're here.
Welcome to SlowEnglishHQ. Let's talk about the 5 tiny habits that can quietly transform your English one day at a time.
So, what's the very first habit? Because I have a feeling you're not about to say, buy 17 grammar books.
Definitely not. Actually, my first habit is surprisingly small. Don't wait for study time. Meet English every day.
What's the difference? That kind of sounds like the same thing.
That's exactly what I used to think. I'd tell myself, okay, Saturday afternoon, I'm going to study English for 3 hours.
Ah, yes. Future you was always very productive.
Future me was amazing. Current me? Not so much. Saturday arrived. I got a little tired. Then hungry. Then I watched one YouTube video. Then somehow it was evening.
It's funny how I'll study later can magically turn into, I guess I'll start next week.
Exactly. And every time I skipped one big study session, I felt guilty. Like I had failed. But one day, I realized something. Maybe I didn't need bigger study sessions. Maybe I just needed more meetings with English.
Meetings? That sounds very corporate. Should English send us a calendar invitation?
Not that kind of meeting. I mean, tiny moments. A few minutes here, a few minutes there. Instead of asking, when can I study English? I started asking, where can English fit into my day? That one question changed everything.
Ooh, I like that. Because suddenly, it doesn't feel like adding another task. You're just giving English a small seat in your everyday life.
Exactly. And here's something that surprised me. Reading one page every day helped me more than trying to read an entire chapter once a week.
Really? Just one page?
Yep. Because one page happened almost every day. One chapter usually happened never.
Hey, that's painfully accurate. We always overestimate what we'll do on one perfect day and underestimate what tiny actions can do every single day.
Right? Think about brushing your teeth. Nobody says, I'll skip brushing all week, then brush my teeth for 3 hours on Sunday.
Please don't do that. Your dentist is crying just thinking about it.
Exactly. We understand consistency in almost every part of life. Exercise, saving money, learning an instrument. But somehow with English, we expect one huge study session to fix everything.
When really, your brain loves repetition, not pressure.
Yes. The goal isn't to impress yourself once. It's to show up again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. That's how English starts feeling familiar.
So, what were you reading every day? Please don't tell me your first English book was some giant classic novel.
Oh, I almost made that mistake. I thought, if I'm serious, I should read something difficult. So I opened a famous novel, read 3 pages, closed it, and didn't touch it again for 2 weeks.
Your confidence left the chat.
Completely. Then someone gave me a children's story. Honestly, I felt a little embarrassed. I thought, isn't this too easy? But after a few pages, something interesting happened. For the first time, I wasn't stopping every sentence to use a dictionary. I was actually following the story.
And that's such an important feeling. When you're enjoying the story, you're not thinking, I'm studying. You're thinking, I wonder what happens next.
Right? And without realizing it, I kept seeing the same words again and again. Look, found, behind, suddenly. At first, they were just words. Then, they started feeling familiar, almost like old friends.
That's something a lot of learners miss. Vocabulary isn't just about seeing a word once. It's about meeting it again and again until your brain says, oh, I know you.
Yes. And here's another habit that helped me even more. I started reading out loud.
Ooh, that can feel awkward at first, especially if someone walks past your room.
Totally. My family probably thought I was giving motivational speeches to my bookshelf. But reading out loud did something silent reading never could. I started noticing words that looked easy, but were surprisingly difficult to pronounce.
Oh, I have one. For the longest time, I pronounced comfortable exactly the way it was spelled. Every single syllable.
You're not alone. English loves surprising us like that.
It really does. Sometimes English looks at a perfectly normal spelling and says, you know what? Let's pronounce this completely differently.
But that's exactly why reading aloud matters. Your eyes learn, your ears learn, and your mouth learns too. You're training all three together.
So, if you're listening right now, don't worry about reading quickly. Don't worry about understanding every single word. Don't even worry about sounding perfect. Just spend a few minutes meeting English today. Maybe one page.
Maybe one short article.
Maybe one story. That's enough.
Because readers don't become fluent overnight.
Yep, they become familiar with English.
And one day, without realizing it, English starts feeling less like a stranger and more like an old friend.
Okay, we've met English with our eyes. Now what?
Now, we train our ears. Because here's something I wish someone had told me years ago. Your mouth can't say what your ears don't recognize.
That's actually really true. Sometimes learners say, I don't know how to say this. But the real problem is they've never really heard it enough.
Exactly. Think about your favorite song. You probably don't remember the lyrics because you studied them. You remember them because you've heard them over and over and over again.
Whether you wanted to or not. Sometimes one song gets stuck in your head for 3 days.
Right? Language works the same way. The more natural English your ears hear, the less your brain has to translate everything.
And translating is exhausting. It's like your brain is doing 2 jobs at once. English, then your language, then back to English again. By the time you've finished, the conversation has already moved on.
Oh, I've definitely been there. Someone asks me a question, I'm still translating it while they're already asking the next one.
Your brain is buffering again.
Exactly. And that's why listening is so powerful. Little by little, your brain starts recognizing whole phrases instead of individual words. You stop hearing, I would like to. You just hear, I'd like to, as one complete idea.
Kind of like recognizing someone's face. You don't look at their nose, then their eyes, then their mouth. You just instantly know, oh, that's my friend.
Oh, I love that comparison. That's exactly what our brains are trying to do with English. Recognize patterns, not solve puzzles.
But I'm wondering, a lot of people say, I listen to English every day. Why don't they improve faster?
Great question. Because there's a big difference between hearing English and listening to English.
Passive listening versus active listening.
Yes, passive listening isn't bad. If you're cooking, cleaning, driving, or going for a walk, having English in the background is still helping your brain get used to the rhythm. But every day, try giving English your full attention, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes.
So instead of doing 5 different things at once, just sit down, put your phone away, and really listen.
Yes. Notice how people connect words. Notice where they pause. Notice which expressions keep appearing. You don't have to understand every word. You're training your ears, not taking an exam.
You know, I used to get so frustrated because I'd finish a podcast and think, I only understood about 20%.
Only 20? That was a good day for me.
Honestly, same. But then someone gave me the simplest advice. They said, listen to it again. And I remember thinking, why? I already didn't understand it the first time.
Exactly. But then something strange happens. The second time, your brain already knows the topic. You're not starting from zero anymore. Suddenly, you notice words you completely missed before. Then the third time, you catch expressions, little jokes, even the speaker's emotion. It's like watching a blurry picture slowly come into focus.
That changed everything for me. Instead of always searching for new content, I started getting more from the same content.
And here's another tiny habit that helped me.
What?
Shadowing.
Ooh, that sounds scary.
It's much easier than it sounds. Listen to just one sentence. Pause. Say it out loud. Try copying the rhythm, the pronunciation, even the emotion. That's it. One sentence.
Not the whole episode? Not 20 minutes? Just one sentence?
Exactly. Your goal isn't to sound perfect. It's to let your mouth experience how natural English feels.
Speaking of natural English, can we talk about accents for a second? Because the first time I watched a British comedy, I thought, wait, are we even listening to the same language?
I had the exact same experience. Then I watched an American movie right after, and suddenly thought, oh, English came back.
It's funny, because English isn't just one voice. It's hundreds of voices, hundreds of accents, different speeds, different expressions.
Exactly. Don't panic if one accent feels harder than another. That doesn't mean your English is getting worse. It just means your ears are meeting someone new.
Although, I do have one embarrassing story.
Uh-oh. Go on.
I was watching Netflix without subtitles. Someone said, I'll grab a bite. And I spent almost 5 minutes wondering, grab what bite? I honestly imagined someone stealing another person's sandwich.
Poor imaginary sandwich.
Only later did I realize they just meant, I'm going to eat something. That's when I learned something important. Sometimes the problem isn't vocabulary. It's expressions.
So true. Which brings us to today's little challenge.
Okay.
Pick 1 minute of English. A podcast, a YouTube video, anything. Listen to it once. Then listen again. Then one more time. Don't rush. Just notice what changes. You'll probably understand more on the second listen, and even more on the third. Not because the audio changed, but because your brain did.
And every time you listen, your ears become a little more familiar with English. And one day, your mouth quietly follows. Okay, we've trained our eyes. We've trained our ears. Now comes the scary part.
The part where our mouth finally has to do some work.
Can I confess something?
Always.
For the longest time, I kept telling myself, I'll start speaking English when I feel more confident.
Uh-oh. That's one of the biggest traps. Because confidence sounds like the starting line, but it's actually the finish line.
Exactly. I kept waiting for this magical day when I'd suddenly wake up and think, wow, today I feel fluent.
Unfortunately, English doesn't send you a notification.
What?
Congratulations! You have unlocked confidence level 100. You may now begin speaking.
If only it worked like that.
The truth is, confidence comes after speaking, not before. Every confident English speaker you admire started by sounding awkward, making mistakes, forgetting words, stopping in the middle of sentences. That's normal.
And honestly, most people aren't judging you nearly as much as you think. They're usually too busy worrying about themselves.
Yep. So, if speaking with other people feels intimidating, start with the safest conversation partner you have.
Yourself.
Perfect. It sounds a little funny at first, but talking to yourself, is one of the best ways to build speaking habits.
And before anyone thinks that sounds weird, let's be honest. Most of us already talk to ourselves, just usually not in English.
Fair point. Sometimes I'm cooking and I'll accidentally say, "Where did I put my phone?" while I'm holding my phone.
That's not an English problem. That's just being human.
Exactly. So why not change little moments like that into English? I'm making coffee. This smells good. I need to buy milk. The weather looks nice today. Simple, real, useful.
And because those are things you actually say in daily life, your brain starts connecting English with real situations instead of just textbook exercises.
That's the point. One habit that helps me a lot was describing whatever I could see. I'd look around my room and think, there's a blue chair. My backpack is under the desk. The window is open. Nothing exciting, but that's the point. Real life isn't exciting every minute. It's ordinary. And that's exactly the English we use the most.
Hey, I love that. People always want to learn fancy vocabulary when what they really need is to become comfortable saying simple things.
That's true. If you can comfortably describe your room, your morning, or what you're doing right now, you're already building the foundation for real conversations.
Okay, can we talk about recording your voice? Because I know a lot of people immediately think, nope.
Including me. The first time I recorded myself speaking English, I listened back for about 5 seconds, then immediately closed the file.
You couldn't do it?
I honestly thought, do I really sound like that?
Can I make everyone feel better? Almost everyone has that reaction. Not just English learners. Everybody, even in their own language. Hearing your recorded voice feels strange because it's different from the voice you hear inside your own head.
Absolutely. So if your first reaction is, I hate my voice, congratulations, you're completely normal.
The goal isn't to fall in love with your voice. The goal is to notice little improvements. Maybe this week, your pronunciation is a little clearer. Next month, you pause a little less. 3 months later, you're speaking longer without stopping. Those tiny improvements are easy to miss until you hear them.
That's why recording yourself is so powerful. You're not recording to criticize yourself. You're recording to see your progress.
It's kind of like taking photos while learning to draw. Day by day, you don't notice much. But after a few months, you look back and think, wow, I really have improved.
Exactly. And here's something else people don't always realize. Speaking is a physical skill. Your mouth, your tongue, your lips, they're learning new movements. It's almost like learning a musical instrument or learning to ride a bicycle. You don't become better by reading about it. You become better by doing it. Again and again and again.
That's why it's called practice, not perfection.
So, here's today's little challenge.
Go ahead.
Spend just 2 minutes speaking English. Describe your room. Talk about your breakfast. Tell tomorrow's plans. No script, no dictionary. Just speak.
And if you forget a word, don't panic. Find another way to explain it. That's exactly what native speakers do too.
Because every time you choose to speak, even when it feels messy, you're sending yourself a new message. I'm someone who uses English every day, not someday, today. And that identity quietly grows, one conversation at a time.
Okay. We've met English with our eyes. We've trained our ears. We've finally convinced our mouths to cooperate, most of the time. So, what's next?
Now, we make English harder to avoid.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Here's something I learned the hard way. Most people think becoming fluent is all about having more motivation. But honestly, I think it's more about having fewer excuses.
Explain.
Let's say your favorite snacks are sitting right on the kitchen table. What's probably going to happen?
They're going to disappear very quickly.
Exactly. Not because you're thinking about them every minute, but because they're right there. Easy to reach, easy to choose.
So you're saying English should become the snack on the table?
That might be the weirdest learning advice I've ever given. But yes, the easier English is to bump into, the more often your brain meets it.
And those little meetings keep adding up, even when you don't notice them.
Exactly. So instead of asking, how can I study more? Try asking, how can I make English impossible to ignore?
That already feels easier. Because you're not adding more work, you're changing what's around you.
Right. One of the first things I did was change my phone to English.
Ah, the famous advice. Did it help?
Eventually.
That doesn't sound very convincing.
Well, the first 5 minutes were a disaster. I changed everything to English, then immediately needed to change one setting. Guess what happened?
Don't tell me. You couldn't find settings.
Exactly. I spent 10 minutes tapping random buttons thinking, where did settings go?
It was still there. You just forgot it was called settings.
I know, right? For a moment, I genuinely thought I'd broken my phone.
Poor phone. It was innocent.
But after a week, something interesting happened. Words like settings, battery, storage, notifications, update. They stopped feeling like vocabulary words. They became familiar. I wasn't studying them anymore. I was using them.
That's such a big difference. When a word helps you do something, your brain remembers it differently.
Exactly. Then I looked at YouTube. Instead of only searching in my own language, I started typing my questions in English.
That sounds so simple, but it completely changes what your algorithm shows you.
Yes. Suddenly, my recommendations slowly filled with English creators. Cooking, travel, photography, history, comedy, whatever I was already interested in, just in English.
That's something I really love, because you're not forcing yourself to watch boring videos just because they're educational. You're watching things you genuinely enjoy.
Exactly. The best English content is often about something that isn't English.
Ooh, I like that. Because you're focused on the idea, not just the language.
Right. The same thing happened with Spotify. Instead of only listening to music, I added English podcasts while cooking, cleaning, or walking. Not because I understood every word, but because English slowly became part of the soundtrack of my day.
Even Instagram can help. Follow creators who post in English, travel accounts, artists, chefs, fitness coaches. Whatever you already enjoy, your daily scrolling suddenly becomes tiny English practice.
That's what I'm talking about. You're not replacing your hobbies. You're simply changing the language they're happening in.
Can I share one habit that surprised me?
Of course.
Whenever I went for a walk, I'd quietly describe what I saw in English. The sky is really blue today. That dog looks excited. I think it's going to rain. Nobody even knew I was practicing.
I love that. And if you don't know one word, don't stop. Just explain it another way. That's real communication.
Exactly. Sometimes I'd think, I forgot the word. Then I'd describe it differently. And honestly, that made me a better speaker.
Because that's exactly what happens in real conversations. Even native speakers forget words sometimes. They explain, they rephrase, they keep talking.
Which is a lot better than freezing because one tiny word disappeared.
Correct. And here's my favorite part. None of these habits takes much extra time. You're already using your phone, already watching YouTube, already listening to music, already walking. You're simply inviting English to come along.
Little by little, your environment starts working for you instead of against you.
And something amazing happens. Instead of your brain thinking, oh, it's time to study English. It starts thinking, oh, English is just part of my day.
That's when practice begins to feel natural. Not because English became easier overnight, but because it stopped feeling like a visitor and quietly became part of your everyday world. We've talked about reading, listening, speaking, and filling our world with English. So, how should we end the day?
With one tiny win.
I like that already. It doesn't sound like homework. It sounds kind.
Yes. I used to end my day thinking about everything I didn't do. I forgot to study. I didn't learn enough vocabulary. I should have practiced more. By bedtime, it felt like I had failed.
Oof. I think a lot of people know that feeling. You spend the whole day being busy, then somehow convince yourself you've done nothing.
Exactly. So I changed one small thing. Instead of asking, did I study enough today? I started asking, what's one tiny thing English gave me today?
That's such a different question. One focuses on guilt. The other focuses on progress.
Right. And that's when I started keeping a tiny journal. Not pages and pages, not an essay, just a few sentences. 3 sentences, actually.
Only 3?
Yep. The first sentence was something simple about my day. Today I cooked pasta. Today it rained. Today I felt really tired. Nothing fancy, just real life.
That's nice. Because you don't have to invent interesting stories. Your own day is enough.
You got the point. The second sentence was one new word or phrase I wanted to remember. Maybe something I heard in a podcast, or something from a movie, or even something one of my friends said.
I love collecting little expressions like that. Sometimes it's not even a difficult phrase. It's just a more natural way to say something.
Exactly. Native speakers don't always use complicated English. They often use simple expressions really well.
So, what's the third sentence?
The third one became my favorite. I wrote one thing I'd learned. Sometimes it was, today I learned that grab a bite means to eat. Sometimes it was, I finally remembered how to pronounce comfortable. Sometimes it was even, today I realized I don't need to translate every sentence. Every day looked different.
Ooh, I really like that. You're ending the day with a reminder that you actually grew, even if it was just a little.
Right? And sometimes, I'd also write one mistake I made. Not to criticize myself, just to notice it.
That's an important difference. A mistake isn't proof that you're bad at English. It's proof that you're actually using English.
Well said. If you never make mistakes, you're probably not practicing enough.
That's strangely encouraging.
And before I closed my notebook, I added one final sentence. A little gratitude. In English. Something as simple as, I'm grateful for today's conversation. Or, I'm thankful that I didn't give up. Or even, I'm happy I learned one new expression today.
That's beautiful. You're not just practicing English. You're ending your day with something positive.
That's true. And then, something happened that I never expected. About 6 months later, I opened one of my old journal pages.
Uh-oh. Was it embarrassing?
A little. Some grammar mistakes, some awkward sentences. One page even had the same word spelled 2 different ways. I still don't know how I managed that.
Your past self was creative.
Very creative. But do you know what surprised me?
What?
I didn't feel embarrassed for very long. I felt proud, because I could actually see my progress. The sentences became smoother. The vocabulary became more natural. I was writing longer thoughts without even realizing it.
That's something we rarely notice in daily life. Progress is usually too small to see. Until you look back.
That's true. Learning English is a little like watching a plant grow. If you stare at it every minute, it doesn't seem to change. But come back a few months later, and suddenly it's taller, healthier, stronger.
And your English is the same. You don't become fluent because one amazing day changes everything. You become fluent because hundreds of ordinary days quietly add up.
So tonight, before you go to bed, try this. Write 3 simple sentences. One thing about your day, one new word or phrase, one thing you learned. If you made a mistake, write it down with a smile. And finish with one sentence of gratitude in English. Not because your English has to be perfect, but because today, you showed up. And sometimes, showing up is the biggest win of all. You know, when we started this conversation, I told you a slightly embarrassing story.
Slightly. You completely froze after someone asked, "How are you?"
Okay, maybe very embarrassing. At the time, I honestly thought something was wrong with me. I thought, maybe I'm just bad at English. But now, looking back, I realized something. It wasn't that I couldn't speak. I simply hadn't spent enough tiny moments with the language.
And I think that's something so many English learners need to hear. Struggling doesn't automatically mean you're bad at English. Sometimes it simply means your habits haven't had enough time to work yet.
Exactly. Because here's the funny thing about learning a language. For a long time, it feels like nothing is happening. You read one page, nothing changes. You listen to one podcast, nothing changes. You speak one sentence, nothing changes. You write 3 little lines before bed, and still, nothing seems different.
It almost feels unfair. You're putting in the effort, but you can't see the results yet.
Right. But that's how tiny habits work. They don't usually change your life in one day. They quietly change who you become. One small action at a time.
Like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every morning to check if it's growing. You water it. You trust the process. And one day, you notice it's become something much bigger than you expected.
Exactly. And then, one ordinary afternoon, something surprising happens. Someone asks, "How are you?" And before your brain has time to panic, you answer, naturally, almost automatically.
Not because you memorized the perfect response, but because you've heard it, read it, spoken it, and lived with it hundreds of times.
That's the reward. Not perfect grammar, not knowing every word in the dictionary, but realizing you're no longer translating every sentence in your head. You're simply communicating.
And that's such a quiet moment. There's no applause, no dramatic music, no notification saying, "Congratulations, you're fluent now."
I wish there were.
Me too. But that's the funny thing. Fluency doesn't arrive with fireworks. One day, you simply notice English feels normal.
And that's why I don't think most people need more motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Some days you'll feel excited. Some days you won't. That's completely normal. What stays with you are your habits. One page, one podcast, one conversation, one tiny journal entry, one walk where you think in English. Little things, repeated often enough, become something extraordinary.
There's a quote I always come back to. Nobody notices the 100 tiny days that created one fluent conversation.
I love that. When people hear someone speaking English confidently, they usually see the conversation. They don't see the quiet evenings, the awkward recordings, the children's books, the repeated podcasts, the tiny moments that made that conversation possible.
Those moments matter, even when they don't feel exciting, even when nobody else sees them.
So, remember that story from the beginning? When I froze after someone asked, "How are you?"
And now?
I still make mistakes. I still forget words sometimes. I still have days when English feels difficult. But now, I answer before I even realize I'm speaking English. Not because I'm perfect, because English has quietly become part of my everyday life.
And honestly, I think that's a much better goal than perfection. Not perfect English, just more natural English. A little more today than yesterday.
So wherever you are on your English journey, keep showing up for those tiny moments. One page, one conversation, one sentence, one habit at a time. Because one day, you'll realize you didn't just learn English. You started living part of your life in English.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us here on Slow English HQ. We hope this conversation made your English journey feel just a little lighter and a little more possible. Take care of yourself. Keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next conversation.
Bye, everyone.